We have some breaking news right now from overseas. A drone strike in northeast Syria has claimed the life of a U.S. contractor and injured 5 U.S. service members. The intelligence community says the strike on a coalition base is affiliated with Iran.
Not the first time, and they did it many more times, and they did it today as well. Will there be any additional response from the U.S. to these groups?
Yeah, I think I just answered that, right? So again, I'm not going to preview any potential future actions other than to, again, say that we will take appropriate action if our forces are threatened.
این پیشرفت رو همه دنیا دارن میبینن و بهش اعتراف میکنن. این برای غرب غیر قابل تحمل.
Independent Islamic Republic.
Several major events have suddenly appeared in West Asia, and it's good to analyse and see where things are heading. The first incident I want to highlight is the Iranian drone attack. On Thursday, Iran's Revolutionary Guard struck a US military base out in Syria with a drone, neutralising 1 American contractor and wounding 6 others. They were all involved in stealing Syrian oil. The American military responded quickly and dispatched helicopters to patrol the skies over the base. So what's the big deal with this? Well, 1 thief got dispatched to hell and 6 others wounded. It should be said that Iran's move here actually shows support to Russia in the grand scheme of things. Although the Iranians haven't admitted to this yet, they are likely to be public about their support to Russia in the coming days. I say this because just recently, Iran transported an unknown number of weapons to Russia. The Western media were mocking Iranian weapons. However, the latest Iranian drone strike clearly demonstrates that these weapons are advancing. It's not easy to infiltrate an airbase and then hit targets with precision. These weapons are capable of damage, and although they won't change the game in Ukraine for Russia, they clearly can't be mocked for what they can actually achieve out there.
С праздником вас! С Днем Великой Победы! Ура!
Another reason why I think Iran is showing support to Russia through this operation is because Iran's approach here is extremely strategic, as whilst the Americans are focused on Russia and Ukraine, they have to divide their attention and ensure the American interests are protected in Syria, which no doubt reduces burden on the Russian military out fighting in Ukraine to some extent. Also, it was the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps who used the drone on the US military base, not the Iranian military. The IRGC is not a regular army that the Iranian government can directly command, so the Iranian government can say that the attack was not commanded by itself. That way they avoid a direct confrontation with the United States.
Before I speak of the progress of this trip, I was informed by my national security team on the way over here that about an attack in Syria yesterday. An Iranian-backed militant groups used an unmanned aerial vehicle to strike one of our facilities, causing several American casualties.
The Americans are hurt because the American military immediately retaliated and attacked the IRGC targets in Syria. This clearly shows America wants to stay out there despite the direction of wind changing in West Asia. The presence of American troops inside Syria is illegal. The US military is stationed in Syria in the name of counter-terrorism, and it steals oil out there. This poses a threat to Syria's economic sovereignty as well as national sovereignty. The only way Syria can achieve peace and prosperity is by resisting American aggression and completely eliminating American military presence out there, along with the so-called Syrian rebel forces supported by the United States. By removing these foreign actors, Syria can of course stabilize and prosper. But will the Americans leave?
And a major breakthrough for Saudi Arabia and Syria, seemingly sudden following the other major breakthrough. These are just reports at this juncture.
The resumption of diplomatic relations between Saudi Arabia and Syria is on the cards. As explained in my previous video, we will soon see all these Arab sheikdoms lift sanctions on Syria and stop their support for jihadist groups, which they did under the direction of America. With the prospect of Saudi and Syria normalizing, other countries in the region are likely to follow Saudi Arabia, as well as many other countries around the globe, especially Muslim majority ones. When all this materializes, it will give a severe blow to the hegemony of the United States, and even Saudi Arabia's move will force the Americans to reconsider its diplomatic layout in West Asia, and that's a good thing for the region. But is Saudi Arabia really turning away from the Americans? Well, yes and no. You have to understand, Saudi Arabia is almost like the younger brother of the United States. Saudi Arabia has purchased more than 200 F-15 fighter jets and more than 300 American-style M1A1 tanks. And as you know, the military cooperation between the two countries is very large. However, the Saudis know for a fact that the relationship they have with America is purely based on money. The Americans just want to milk the Saudis dry and keep the monarchy intact in order to grow American influence in West Asia and the Muslim world. The relationship that the Saudis have with America is weak, and a prime example of weakness is where the Americans not only sold weapons to Saudi Arabia during the height of the Yemeni war, but also condemned the Saudis and even threatened to withhold the sale of weapons. So the Saudis simply can't trust the Americans like the good old days. Another big incident in West Asia is of course the resumption of diplomatic relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran, and now we're already seeing Syria go the same way. Saudi Arabia is now considering changing its stance on Syria and welcoming Syria back into the Arab League. This clearly shows impossible is possible. After all, Saudi funded the Wahhabi group Jaish al-Islam under the direction of America. They did it in order to take out Bashar Al Assad, and now everything has changed.
اونچه که اتفاق افتاد نتیجه عکس داد.
This change is good and is to be welcomed because it clearly shows that Saudi Arabia's diplomatic approach has changed from the original one-sided approach to the United States to an independent diplomatic line. The resumption of diplomacy between Saudi Arabia and Syria will also help Syria quite a lot. Saudi Arabia can provide Syria with equipment as well as technology in order to support the Syrian government and improve its combat capabilities and hopefully free every inch of Syria. Whatever changes happen in Saudi Arabia, these changes have a big effect in the region. The diplomatic transformation that Saudi is going through right now will affect countries like Qatar, the United Arab Emirates and other Gulf countries. They will now follow Saudi Arabia to achieve diplomatic transformation. We will see all these countries embracing Syria and Iran once again. It's quite funny really. Netanyahu and the Americans went around West Asia with the Abraham Accords, vilifying Iran as the enemy, trying to put all these Arab countries under one camp, submitting to America and Israel. And now everything has changed.
اونچه که اتفاق افتاد نتیجه عکس داد.
The Iranians have transformed the Abraham Accords to Prophet Muhammad Accords. This is something the Americans and Israelis are very concerned about. If the relations between the Gulf countries and Syria and Iran grow stronger, then Americans will have to consider the feelings of their allies in the Arab world and even may be forced to consider diplomatic relations with Iran and Syria as well. Who knows? Of course, I'm just pulling your leg, I'm speculating here. The Americans are more likely to impose economic sanctions and arms embargoes on Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries, forcing those countries to stand with America once again, and that's probably not going to change. No matter what the future trend in the region will be, I can honestly see American diplomacy in West Asia is very unpopular, and the Americans are losing control of the region. Thank you for listening to the Independent Islamic Republic.
اونچه که اتفاق افتاد نتیجه عکس داد.
Independent Islamic Republic.